Hello everyone, this is Hidayat Shahid. I am your lab instructor for MECE2310U Concurrent Engineering and Design course. In this instructional video, I will walk you through your lab 3A and 3B exercise, which consists of you will be designing a linear actuator. You will be utilizing some of the standard component and CAD model which are downloaded from a couple of vendors. After you're completing the CAD work, you will create the assembly, and then you will do the motion simulation. The motion simulation, we will be going into a little bit more in details in this lab exercise. So let's have a quick look what you're expected to do. So in this lab exercise, I have this assembly which I have created. There are a number of components that you will be designing by yourself, and also there are a few components which are provided to you on Canvas. So please download them, and you will need them to complete the assembly. So there's few components. Let's just have a quick look at them. So there's, for example, this is the carriage that we have, and I'm just simply going to run the motion simulation for this so that you have a little bit idea what exactly you will be doing. So we have this carriage. It basically moves along this rail guide, and the power to this mechanism is provided by this motor. So from the CAD perspective, for this lab exercise, this is a standard rail which is provided by Highwind Incorporation, and there is a couple of other components which are standard. For example, I have downloaded this one, the motor. It has no functionality. It's been downloaded as a standard part, and also the gearbox. The timing belt, there if you go on McMaster car, their website, you can download any of their CAD models associated with the physical components, and same applies with many other vendors. So for the design work, you're always encouraged, and you should always be using the standard components which are available on the market. That first cuts down your design time, and also it's very cost effective. For the CAD work itself, you're designing the frame, you're designing the shaft, you are designing the hub, you're designing the frame. So there is few components that you will be designing it yourself. So in this lab, you will also learn how to add the belt mate, which is available in SolidWorks, and also will create the belt part in the assembly environment. So this is something new that you haven't learned. That's what you will be learning in this lab. In terms of screws and those type of things, we are excluding it from this lab exercise. And also when you're doing motion simulation, it's normally you want to simplify your model. So those things can be added at any moment, and they could be included in your assembly configuration. So to start this lab exercise, first thing first, you can basically open a new part file, and you can set the units as mmgs, and you can save this file as. Again, you will be saving all your parts in your folder that was created in your lab 1, and you will create new folder in there. You can call it with your student ID, lab 3A and 3B. So you could basically save everything in there. So the first part that you will start with, it is we will be doing mounting hub. So I'm gonna save this one as mounting hub. In your case, please make sure you put down your student ID with every single component. and also include lab number. Just call all the components and everything as lab 3 so that everything is referenced properly. So to start the first part, I'm gonna go onto this top plane and I'm gonna select normal 2, and I'm gonna draw the sketch. The sketch, it's basically very simple and straightforward sketch. I'm gonna start from there. I'm gonna just move across. I'm just gonna make the shape that I need, and I'm gonna line it up with this, and I'm gonna come across like that, and I'm gonna line it up right there, and I'm gonna draw a center line from there to there. And now I'm gonna add the dimensions. So the first dimension that I'm gonna add is this one. This is basically 30 millimeters. And then I'm gonna add this dimension. This is 65, and this dimension is 17. And I'm gonna add this one as well, 17. I could make those two vertical lines equal, but I'm just doing it quickly. So 13 is there. My sketch is still not fully defined yet, so I'm gonna add some dimensions here. So this dimension is supposed to be 32. So this pretty much defines the sketch. I'm just gonna measure this. This is 20 as shown in the manual. So the next step, I'm gonna go onto Features tab, and I'm gonna do Revolve Boss base. I'm gonna click on that, and it's showing the sketch is open. I'm just gonna automatically close it. So for the axis of revolution, this center line is selected, and for the other one, the sketch profile is selected. So I'm gonna click OK. So this is the first feature that I have added, and now I'm gonna add another sketch. For that one, I'm gonna go to front plane, and I'm gonna select normal 2, and and I'm gonna draw the sketch. And the sketch is basically, I'm gonna start with the I'm gonna click on the sketch tab. I'm gonna go to the I'm gonna select line, and I'm gonna go to the origin, and I'm gonna simply come across right there. So, and from there I'm gonna move up, and I'm gonna move a little bit in here, go up a bit, and go parallel, and come down, and then go somewhere there, and then basically drop it down there, move across, move up, and then I'm gonna go up there, I'm gonna click there, move down, I'm gonna come across, I'm gonna click right there so that it selects that edge, and I'm gonna come down and then close the sketch. So now I'm gonna add the dimensions. So I'm gonna click on the smart dimension. This dimension, I don't really need it, it's 65, but I'm just gonna escape because I have already added the constraints by selecting these two vertices. I'm gonna add this dimension as 26. I'm just gonna zoom in a bit so that it's easier for you to see. And this dimension is 1.5. Please make sure all the dimensions are inconsistent with your lab manual, because if I accidentally entered a wrong a dimension when I'm doing my assembly. Before I do my assembly, I will be correcting those. This is 15. I'm gonna enter this one 1.5. And I'm just gonna click on the smart dimension again. And this dimension is supposed to be 3.5. And this dimension is supposed to be 26.6. And this is 3.5. Okay, I'm just gonna escape this. I'm gonna click on smart dimension. I'm just reading the dimensions of your lab manual, so I'm just entering some incorrect numbers, or 15, and this one is supposed to be 1.5, and this one okay, I'm gonna just go back, click on smart dimension. I'm gonna select this now. So this is supposed to be 2. So it was just going out the other way, and this is 1.5 as well. So this dimension is 2.2. I'm just looking at your manual, so I'm just gonna change that. And I'm gonna add dimension for this edge and this line. That is supposed to be 2 millimeters. And so the sketch is fully defined. I'm gonna go to the feature tab and I'm gonna select Revolved Cut. And for the axis of revolution, I'm gonna select this center line, and I'm gonna click OK. So there we go. So the cut has cut feature has been added. Now I'm gonna move out to the next sketch that I'm gonna create. I'm gonna create a hole there, and then basically then I'm gonna use a circular pattern to create more holes. To do that, I'm gonna select click on front plane, look normal to it, go to sketch tab, click on sketch, and I'm gonna add the following sketch. So I'm gonna click on the line. The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a center line, so that that's what I will just simply use it for the axis. So I'm gonna draw a line, and I'm gonna go make it a coincident somewhere there. I'm gonna go up somewhere there, move up, and then go up like that, come across, align with this edge, and come across, and then just close the sketch. And I'm gonna add the dimension. The first dimension that I'm gonna add here is this is 39. The second one I'm gonna add between escape, I'm gonna select this one and this one, and I'm gonna flip the side. So I'm simply adding this dimension as 4.5. Okay, and from here to to here. This is 7. This is 4.9. Okay, I already have this dimension added. So the sketch is fully defined with this dimension, but I just want to add another dimension. This is supposed to be 8.1. I don't need it since I make these edges coincident when I created the sketch. And I'm gonna go to Feature tab and I'm gonna select Revolved Cut, and I'm simply gonna rotate this. And in here, I'm gonna delete this line, and I wanna do the rotation actually around this axis, this line. So that's what I'm gonna select. This line I had just created to lock the dimension. I'm gonna click OK. So there is a hole is created. Now I'm gonna use a circular pattern, and I'm simply gonna select the features. I'm simply gonna click on that cut revolve that I had just created, and for direction I'm simply gonna pick one of this, and I want to have 4 holes, and I'm gonna do it equal spacing, and I'm gonna click OK. So this basically is getting close to completing the part. So now I'm gonna create a sketch on this face. I'm gonna select this, and I'm gonna look normal too, and I'm gonna click on sketch. And in here, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna draw a center line. I'm gonna go somewhere there and stop there, and I'm gonna draw one over here, and I'm gonna draw another one. And escape, and now I'm just gonna add some dimension to it. This one I'm just gonna keep it 50.91, and this one I'm gonna do the same thing, 50.91, and I'm gonna add dimension for this one as well, 50.91. And I'm simply gonna add another center line from the origin, horizontal there. I'm gonna add the smart dimension, 50.91. Oops. That went completely out of the I'm just gonna delete this line altogether, and I'm press F key. I'm gonna just mirror this, mirror about this one, click OK. So now I'm gonna add the solid line, which I'm gonna use to make some cuts. I'm gonna just and I'm gonna go around here, and I'm gonna close this sketch. And now if I measure the dimension, this should be 72. So this is good. My sketch is fully defined the way I created it. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to features, and I'm gonna select Extruded Cut, and and under the specifications in here, I'm simply gonna specify from the sketch plan, and I'm gonna simply say through all both, and I'm gonna click OK, So this is cutting like that, but this is not what I want, so I'm gonna go back and edit the feature. So I'm gonna simply check box this flip side to cut, so it's gonna remove the material on the outside. So this is the end result for that one by checking that box, and this completes the part one. So for this lab, and simply save the part file and open a new file. And change the units to mmgs and file, save as. Your second part is called belt gripper. So you're gonna use the same convention, and I'm simply gonna call it belt gripper, and I'm gonna save. So to start this part, click on the top plane. I'm gonna select the normal view, and I'm gonna go to sketch tab, and I'm gonna draw the sketch which is shown in your lab manual. It's a very simple sketch that you need to draw. Simply you could start with the a rectangle. I'm gonna use the center rectangle, and I'm simply gonna drop it like that. So first thing first, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a smart dimension here, 50, this is 90, and then there are 4 circles on it. So I'm gonna go draw one here, for example, one here, and I'm gonna drop and draw one there. I'm gonna press and hold my control key, 1, 2, and I'm gonna select all these arcs. And I'm gonna make them equal. So these 4 circles, they have same dimension, so I'm gonna make them equal. So I'm gonna add a few dimensions here. So to add the dimensions, simply I'm gonna click OK, and I'm gonna select the diameter first, and I'm gonna set it the diameter as 4.2 millimeters, and from there to there, this dimension is 10, and from there to there it's 6. So the next dimension I'm gonna add is for this circle, and I'm gonna add all the dimensions here, 6, 10, 10, and this dimension is 6. I'm gonna click OK. So the sketch is fully defined, but I need to add a couple of chamfers there. So I'm gonna go to this, I'm gonna get out of this dimension. I'm gonna go under here. I'm gonna click on the sketch chamfer, and I'm gonna set this distance as 5 millimeters, and I'm gonna click here, click on this vertex, click on this corner, click on this corner. So it's adding the chamfers, and the sketch is fully defined. I'm gonna click OK, and the next step is simply going to Features tab, and I'm gonna click on Extruded Boss, and the depth for this plate is 6 millimeters, and I'm gonna click OK, and I'm gonna save this file. So this completes your part 2 for this lab exercise. And now for the new part, I'm gonna open a new file, new part file. I'm gonna click OK, and I'm gonna save this file as change the units first, mmgs. I'm gonna click save as, and I'm gonna save this one as carriage belt mount. And first thing first, I'm gonna select the top plane, and I'm gonna look normal to. I'm gonna click on sketch, tab, then sketch icon, and now I'm gonna add this first sketch that is shown in your lab manual under part 3. So to create this one, I'm simply gonna draw lines. I'm gonna go up, I'm gonna come across this way, I'm gonna move down somewhere here, I'm gonna click here, horizontal line, and I'm gonna create this vertical line by lining it up with this origin, and it's horizontal line. And I'm gonna add the dimensions, and the dimensions are pretty straightforward. This is 18, this is 73, and this is 10. So this basically is one more dimension I need to add here. I'm gonna select this one. This is 32. So this fully defines the sketch. I'm gonna go to features tab. I'm gonna click on the Boss extrude, and I'm gonna set the depth as 90 millimeters. I'm gonna click OK. Okay, now we'll create a sketch. To do that, I'm gonna select this face, and I'm gonna look normal too, but this is not the orientation that I want to look at. I want to simply look at in this orientation, and I'm gonna click sketch. So this is the arrows that I wanted there, and that's where I'm gonna create the sketch. To do that, I'm simply gonna draw a line here, and I'm gonna draw a line at an angle, and I'm just gonna come across here. I'm gonna press escape, and now I'm gonna add a couple of dimensions. From here to here, I want to add 2.15. I'm gonna zoom in, and this dimension I want it 2.78, and from there to this, escape, I want to add the angular dimension there. This is supposed to be 56 degrees, and now I'm gonna add fillet. The radius for that one is set as 1 millimeter, and I'm gonna click OK. So and I'm just gonna double check this dimension. Yeah, it's just 0.8. That's all I need. And I'm gonna mirror this sketch profile around this edge, and I'm gonna click on mirror entities, and I'm gonna select entities to mirror, and mirror about, I'm simply gonna select this edge, and I'm gonna click OK. So this is the sketch that I wanted, and I'm just gonna move this in here. Now I'm gonna use the linear sketch pattern, and I'm gonna click on this x-axis. I'm gonna select this edge, and here I'm gonna specify I believe it's 7, and number of instance is 14. And entities to pattern, I'm simply gonna select this sketch profile. So it captures everything, but my direction is on the wrong way. So I'm gonna click on this to change the direction, and I'm gonna click OK. So once this is added, now I'm gonna click on Features tab, and I'm gonna select Extruded Cut icon, and I'm simply gonna do through all and click OK. So this is done. In the next step, I'm gonna select this face, and I'm gonna click on Sketch, and I'm simply gonna select this. I'm gonna look normal too, and I'm gonna add 2 rectangles, and I'm gonna line it up with this edge, and I'm gonna line it up with this edge, and the second one start from there and line up with that edge. And now I'm gonna add the dimensions from there to there. It's supposed to be, let me just have a look, it's 25 millimeters, and this one is supposed to be 12.5. And the sketch is fully defined, and this one is 12.5. And I'm simply gonna now click on Features tab, and I'm gonna select Extruded Cut, and under Direction I'm gonna specify up to Surface, and I'm gonna select this face, and I'm gonna click OK. So I'm just gonna make this cut. Now in the next step, I'm gonna add few chamfers. To do that, I'm gonna go to the chamfer tool under this fillet icon. By expanding it, I'm just gonna select the chamfer, and under chamfer parameters, I'm gonna specify 5 and 45 degrees. And I'm gonna select this edge, this edge, this edge, and excuse me, this edge, and click OK, and the chamfer is done. In the next step, I'm gonna add a few holes. To do that, I'm gonna click on Hole Wizard from Features tab, and I'm gonna select this simple hole, and under there I'm gonna specify NC metric, and tap drills will be the type, and the hole specification will be M5.8. The end condition is blind, and the dimension is 12.4. And I'm gonna click on this position tab, and I'm gonna select this face. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna press spacebar, and I'm gonna select this so I can see it a bit better, and I'm gonna go across, and I'm gonna go across there, and I'm gonna line it up here. So to add the dimension, I'm gonna click on the Smart Dimension, and I'm simply gonna select the center point. I'm gonna add this dimension as 10, and same thing with this one. Between this edge and this edge is 6. Between this edge, 6. Between this one, 6. From here to this edge is 6. And from here to here, I need 10. From here to here, I need 10. So these are the dimensions. Pretty much, please make sure your dimensions are as per your lab manual. And once that's done, click OK. Click OK again. So there are the 4 holes. And now I will select this face. You could select this one or the other one. In the manual, it calls for the other one, which is okay. I'm gonna select this, so I will follow your lab manual, because there is one dimension. It needs to be a dimension from this edge. So I'm simply gonna draw 2 circles on here. 1, 2, and I'm gonna press and hold my control key, and I'm gonna make them these 2 circles equal. And now I'm gonna add some dimensions. The diameter is supposed to be 10 millimeters from here to here. The dimension is 20. From here to here, it's 36.5. And I'm just gonna add another dimension there, rather than adding the center line the way I have written in the manual. Okay, so the sketch is still under defined. I need to enter another dimension, which I'm gonna go across here and put this one as 20. So the sketch is fully defined. I'm gonna go to Features tab, and I'm gonna click on Extruded Cut, and I'm gonna specify through all and click OK. So this is done. And now I'm gonna select this face. I will rotate it in a way so it looks very similar as your manual, and I'm gonna press space bar, and I'm gonna click on this, and I'm gonna click on Hole Wizard, and I'm gonna specify simple and symmetric tab drill. In here, size is gonna be M610, and this is gonna be through all. The end condition is through all. So now I'm gonna click on the Precision tab, and I'm gonna drop one there, and I'm gonna line it up, line it up, line it up, and I'm gonna draw the center line, and I'm gonna do one here, one there, one there. And now I'm gonna enter some dimensions as per your lab manual. I'm gonna select this, I'm gonna select this, and I'm gonna make them equal. And I'm gonna do the same thing on this side. Press and hold my control key, and these are equal as well. And this one, okay, I'm just gonna delete it. Okay, now I'm gonna add the dimensions. This is gonna be 35. It's gonna be 60. And from here to here, I'm gonna put as 17.8. and from here to here 6.5. So that's how they are. I'm just gonna double check whether everything is lined up or not. Yeah, it's 90 degrees here. Oops. $90 there. I'm just double checking. Yep. So everything is the way it needs to be. I'm simply gonna click on OK. And the 4 holes are created as they're needed for this part. So here I'm gonna save this part. And I will move on to your next part. So I'm gonna open a new file. And I'm gonna open new part file. I'm gonna save this the units as mmgs, and I'm gonna save this file as, and this is gonna be and I'm gonna call this one as shaft. And I click on the top plane, click on sketch, and I'm gonna draw a sketch. Gonna go across, go up, come back this way, go down a bit, go like that, come back this way, go up a bit, come down this way, and line this up and close the sketch. And now I'm gonna add the dimensions. I'm gonna start with this dimension 12.5, this dimension we'll come back to this one. I will just follow your lab manual. Alright, so next dimension I'm gonna specify this, so I will just follow exactly how it's specified in your lab manual. From here to here, 2. This one will be 3. This one would be 15. And from there to there is 1, and this one is supposed to be 1.5. And from here to here, this is supposed to be 61. And I'm gonna press F key to. So the next dimension I'm gonna add is between this is supposed to be 2 as well, which things should be lined up. And this is 1, and from there to there, this is supposed to be 1 as well, because I had not constrained the sketch otherwise. So now the sketch is not fully defined yet. I'm gonna add one more dimension so that it's gets fully defined. If I add, gonna press escape. I could add oops, from there to there, I could add this dimension. so that it gets fully defined. Oops. So this I have dropped this dimension, so my sketch is fully defined now. This dimension is not specified in the manual, but it should work out automatically. I am just adding it so that sketch is fully defined. And now I'm gonna click on Revolved Boss base, and I'm gonna simply select this one. In the manual, I have drawn center line. You can draw that too. And I'm gonna click OK. So this is how it looks. And now I'm gonna move on to the next step. The next step is simply adding a hole on this face. I'm gonna click on Hole Wizard, and I'm gonna select Simple Hole. Specification is gonna be N-symmetric tap drills. And the diameter I'm gonna select is actually the type for this one is drill sizes, and it's gonna be diameter 8. Okay, and the end condition is going to be blind. And the depth is supposed to be 19 millimeters. And I'm gonna click on the position tab, and I'm gonna select this face, and I'm gonna line up with this origin, and I'm gonna click OK. And that's the hole there. And the next step I'm gonna move on to is adding chamfers. So I'm gonna click on this under this fillet icon, and I'm gonna select this chamfer. And the specification, I'm gonna enter this one. Depth is 1 millimeter, angle is 45 degrees, and the edge that I'm gonna select is simply this, and I'm gonna click OK. And after this is done, I'm gonna move to the next step. The next step is simply selecting this face and clicking on sketch, and I'm gonna simply press spacebar so that I can look normal too. So the sketch that I need to add is I could simply use the convert entities to get the sketch, but I will simply just draw 2 circles, and the diameter for this one is supposed to be I'm gonna add the other dimension first. This is gonna be 20, and this is gonna be 25. And I'm gonna click on features. I'm gonna select Extruded Cut, and the depth for the blind is going to be 32 millimeters, and I'm gonna click OK. So this has created this one, and now I will add another chamfer on the other side, on this side, and simply click. I'm gonna click on chamfer. I'm gonna select this edge, and it's already the settings are 1 and 45 degrees. Gonna click OK, and now I'm gonna select top plane. That's where I'm gonna add a sketch. I'm gonna look normal too, and I'm gonna add a sketch there. And for the sketch, I'm gonna select this straight slot, and I'm gonna line it up somewhere there. Click there, and I'm gonna drop the slot sketch there. And now I'm gonna add some dimensions, and the dimensions are from here to this one. It's supposed to be 5 millimeters from this edge, and this is supposed to be 20, and this is supposed to be 3 millimeters. So these are the dimensions are needed for the sketch, and the next step is simply going to Features tab and clicking on Extruded Cut. And in here for method, I'm gonna select from, set as offset, and in here I'm gonna enter 6.5, and under here I'm gonna specify under direction 1 through all. So basically I'm gonna offset the sketch, and I'm gonna cut everything through so it won't come all the way in, and I'm gonna click OK. So this is where the slot is added. The only thing that I'm gonna make a change to is one of my dimensions seem to be incorrect. Let me just see if I can flip the direction. Yeah, this is the direction that I needed to do. My direction was incorrect. So this looks like the way I need to do is. It's simply, if you encounter that, simply select on the direction. And I'm gonna save this file. So now I'm gonna create your last part that you're supposed to design by yourself. I'm gonna open a new part file. I'm gonna set the units as mmgs, and I'm gonna save this file in my lab 3 folder, and I'm gonna save it as you will be saving as your student ID lab 3. I'm gonna call it base frame. Save. I'm gonna click on the top plane. I'm gonna click on sketch, and I'm gonna draw a sketch. I'm gonna use the center rectangle, and I'm gonna go across like that, and I'm gonna add some dimensions here. This is supposed to be 1150, and this one is 140 millimeters. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna draw a center line from this side, and I'm gonna draw it horizontal, and I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. Yeah, to make it look like similar as the lab manual, I could simply trim the center line so it looks a bit cleaner for you. And I'm gonna add some dimensions here. I will add it the way it's added in your lab manual, so it's easier. I'm gonna go from this side. I'm gonna select this one as 75, and on this side 490. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna draw a rectangle, or I'm gonna draw a circle. That's probably better. And I'm gonna draw another circle on this side, and for this one I'm gonna add the diameter. It's supposed to be 90. On this one I'm simply going to draw a line up and escape, and I'm gonna do the same thing coming down this way. Escape, and I'm gonna trim this one, and I'm gonna trim here, and I'm gonna draw a line, horizontal line, and the same thing I'm gonna do is on the other side, horizontal line there, and I'm simply gonna click on trim entities. I'm gonna delete this. So now this dimension I'm gonna specify, and the radius for this one is supposed to be 35. So that's that, and this is supposed to be 85. So everything shifts accordingly. And I'm just checking my dimensions because I just want to make sure that everything is correct here. I'm simply gonna check this. This is supposed to be yeah, this should be around 500, so this is fine. I don't need to change anything. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select this dimension because I had created my rectangle differently. So I just wanna add this dimension so that my sketch is fully defined. And I'm gonna click on the Features tab, and I'm gonna select Extruded Boss, and I'm gonna extrude it by 20 millimeters. In the next step, I'm gonna add a few fillets, and I'm gonna click on fillet icon there, and for the dimension, fillet dimension is 3 millimeters. That's the specification. And now I'm gonna select a few edges where I want the fillets to be added. And I'm gonna select this and zoom in so you can see. I'm gonna click OK. So it's been rounded off. I'm gonna select this face, and I'm gonna look normal too. And I will add a hole. And to do that, I'm gonna simply click on the hole wizard, select simple hole. Under here, I'm gonna specify NC metric and drill sizes, and I'm gonna select M8 if it's tap drills. That's the specification. M8 1.0, and I want to show the custom sizing to just it's consistent with the manual. And in here the depth is supposed to be 20 millimeters. I could have just simply selected through all, wouldn't change anything. I'm gonna click on the position tab. Okay, now I will add a hole. To do that, I'm gonna click on hole wizard, and I will select this face. I'm just gonna look normal to it. Alright, so in here with the hole specification, I'm gonna select simple hole, NC metric. The type is tap drills. The hole size is 8 1.0, and I will just click on the show custom sizing so it's consistent with the manual. And the depth end condition is 20 millimeters. I'm gonna click on the position tab, and I'm gonna click here and I'm gonna drop it there, and I'm gonna add the dimension. The dimension from this I'm gonna add 200, and I'm gonna click OK and click OK. So the hole is added. Now I'm gonna use linear pattern to copy this hole. To do that, I'm gonna click on linear pattern feature, and I'm gonna select this edge, and the specification for the linear pattern is 60 millimeters and the instance is 14, and my direction is incorrect, so I'm simply gonna flip the direction by clicking on this. I'm gonna click OK. So that is done. And the next step, I'm gonna select this face. I'm gonna look normal too, which I should be looking already. I'm gonna zoom in, and in here I'm gonna click on sketch icon, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a center line so that I could define my dimensions with respect to that. I'm gonna click on this corner rectangle, and I'm simply gonna drop a rectangle something like this. Alright, so now I'm gonna add the dimensions. This is 90, and this is supposed to be 190. And from there to there, I'm gonna simply specify 45. So my sketch is fully defined. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna click on the Features tab, Extruded Cut, and I'm gonna make a cut by 10 millimeters. Click OK. And the last step for this part is to add 2 fillets, which I'm gonna click on the fillet icon, and I'm gonna select this one, this edge, and this edge, and the fillet radius is 3 millimeters. Click OK. So this completes this part. I'm simply gonna save this file. Before moving to the next parts, I have just realized my dimension specification for this hole is incorrect, so I'm gonna fix that. I'm gonna simply go to Tap Drill and click on right click on the Sketch 5, and I'm gonna press Space key so I can look normal too. And one thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just draw a center line from here, and it's gonna be horizontal center line, and I'm simply gonna come there, and I'm gonna delete this dimension so that it's consistent with the manual. So this dimension is supposed to be 375. Let me just double check. No, it's 370. And now this is fully defined, so I'm okay. I'm gonna exit. So now this part is the way it's supposed to be. I'm gonna save this one. So now I will move to the next part, next few parts that have been provided to you. So I'm gonna go to my work folder to just demonstrate it from there. So these parts, there is a zipped folder that will be provided to you for this lab exercise on Canvas. So simply download this zipped folder in your work folder for lab 3 A and B. And then simply once it's downloaded and saved into this folder, then simply right click on it and unzip. And simply select extract here. So the entire folder is there, so leave it like that. So now go back to SolidWorks and save this one, for example. I'm just gonna close the parts that I don't need, I'm gonna open File, New, Part File, and I'm gonna simply click Open there and go back to my work folder, and I'm gonna start with this bearing step. I'm gonna open it in this part, and I'm gonna run the diagnostics, and I'm gonna click OK, and I'm gonna set the units MMGS, and I'm simply gonna save this file as, and I'm gonna save it in the folder there as a solid part. And I'm gonna repeat this step for the other parts which have been provided to you, but I'm gonna show it from there so that you have full idea what to do. I'm now opening the guide rail, and I'm gonna run the diagnostics again, and I'm gonna save these file as where you have designed your parts. So I'm gonna save it there, and I'm gonna open another file. I'm gonna go back to this step file. I'm opening the linear carriage, and these parts are standard parts which are available through Hive Corporation. And there are many other vendors too. They sell similar products. So now it's taking a bit long because this carriage part, it has about 18-19 components, but we will be bringing them as like, you know, one rigid body type of stuff, so that the diagnostics don't need to split all the parts. So when we are bringing in for motion simulation, so it won't be too I'm gonna click OK. So let it run the diagnostics and save this file as. Again, I will go save everything where you're saving, and you should save these files as, if you want, you can add your student IDs there if you want, but it's not really necessary because these are not your parts. So one thing you could do is you could change the appearance. You can see these screws here. You can see these face plates and stuff. So everything, if you expand these are brought in as solid bodies, which you have already done exercise on. You can change the appearance if you want to make it look nice, but I will just simply save the file. And I could just show you how to change the appearance for one quick clip. I am just selecting the screw, for example. I will just change this to black. So as you can see, I could have selected the other one there too in one shot. And could go black. Oops, I have the wrong thing. You could just go select from there, and if there's any other screw you want to change, give the same color, you could go select there. And now I'm gonna simply select, for example, this, right click, select the different color, and in here, for example, if I make delete in here, I could just simply go. Okay, so this is brought in as okay. I need to run the some feature recognition or another diagnostics to change the color for these bodies. But I could change it here, and it's the different selection tool. This is the body. I want to change the color. So this is the body I have selected. So I could simply see, I can select it in here. So it's the how I'm assigning the colors. So anyway, you could continue on and then change the colors as you wish for this one. All right, so the next step, I'm gonna open up the next standard part. So I have done the linear carriage. I'm gonna go to the motor gearbox. Gonna click OK. I'm gonna click OK there, and I'm gonna simply save this file as under the work folder, and I'm saving it as a solid part now. And I'm gonna open your next part, and which is motor. So this motor and gearbox, they're just added there for to complete the design. So these are like standard components. These are not real motors or anything. It's simply brought in as one rigid one body. They're one solid body. That's how we're bringing it in. Okay, so I'm gonna save this file as a motor solid part, and I'm gonna open the last step file. There's two more, I believe 3 more to go. It's a mounting bracket. It's a very simple part, but again, standard component. And I'm gonna save this file as, and I'm gonna save it in the appropriate folder. And I'm gonna open this retaining ring step file. And I'm gonna click OK, and I'm gonna save this file as in the work folder. And now I'm gonna open the last component from the downloaded folder, which has been unzipped. I'm gonna open this timing belt pulley, and I'm gonna run the diagnostics. I'm gonna click OK. And I'm gonna save this file also under the work folder for lab 3 and B. So this basically completes your lab 3A.